Okay, hey everybody. I wanted to make a video to, I don't know, do something different than yesterday's video, which was a little chaotic. My daughter made a cameo, like off camera, and every time I get done making a video, it's like, these videos are kind of like indicative of my headspace in general. Um, my headspace in general is kind of indicative of how I felt, when I did the soft white underbelly video, and just everything I do, these videos included. It's like I go back and forth in real time in my head of like being in my ego and thinking like, oh God, I got to say this or that's not going to come out right. And it's like I can feel myself like censoring like every little thing. And that was a habit that I had done for decades, like my whole life. Like I started being aware of like censoring and kind of like playing my thoughts in my head before I even responded to a basic question like, what do you want for Christmas? When I was growing up, because of potential criticism. And I just was so sensitive to any type of like negative feedback or criticism or like upsetting someone that, I really did try to, just be like everything. And I ended up being everything except for myself. And now with these videos and just in life, I'm just trying to like speak from the heart and just stand in my, you know, be proud of my voice and just stand in authenticity. And sometimes when you really try to just be yourself, it's like hard. At least it is for me. It's really hard to not have that like self-censorship. And I still do that with these videos a lot, even though I've come a really long way, and I don't want to discourage how far I've come and the work I've done. I still go back and forth just like in every conversation of like being in my ego versus speaking from the heart. And it's just a lot of unlearning and a lot of unpacking, and it's hard to change. And it's hard to for me to have to keep in mind that it's okay if I'm not for everyone, or I'm not going to be for everyone. No one is. And like I was talking about reverse inspiration yesterday in the other video, another like big thing that I use that is reverse inspiration is taking like celebrities and names in the recovery community, like big names, people that are already successful that I don't like and I think are like overrated or maybe even like a little bit phony. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? They did it. So if they can do it and they suck, in my opinion, well, hell, I can do it too. I kind of like turn that negative into a positive. Like, okay, well, they're not even like, they're not being genuine. So hell, if I can just be myself. But that's like the hardest thing to do sometimes, which is weird because I feel so vulnerable, and I know I've come so far, but I still hold myself back from like taking that extra step that is absolutely imperative to this next chapter in my life. And so that's what I'm doing with this video. I'm just really trying to put myself out there with complete authenticity, and take it from there, because I know as long as I speak from the heart and I own my voice and come from a place of self-love, like I'm not going to end up in the wrong place. And I look back on 20 20 solid years from age 14 with my very first boyfriend to age 34 with my last boyfriend when I was like really sick mentally, to the last relationship that almost cost me my life. I look back on those 20 years, and almost every relationship that I had, like romantic relationship, I was looking for some type of permission. Um, Usually it was permission to fail, you know. And the same thing with addiction too. And anybody that's ever been an addict knows what I'm saying when I say addiction is kind of like a romantic relationship. It's like a love affair, um, in a really twisted way. because it's like your addiction and your drug of choice, and just like the whole thing, like, you know, all of it, like getting the drugs and preparing the drugs, like it's all like this relationship. And you kind of like, what's the word, like you give like your drug human characteristics. What's the word for that, where you like, shit, I know that word, but anyway, you know what I mean. Like it's like you look at it like a companion, because it is this thing that's there for you, and it's this crutch that you lean on so heavily. You know, it's kind of like a partnership. And I use like my addiction and 20 years of relationships as permission to fail. And I didn't know that at the time, and it wasn't the only thing that I used relationships for, but it was definitely one of the things. Like I looked at love as like this. At first, I used love as a reason, like to complete me and to give me like a purpose and a reason to wake up in the morning. But then ultimately, I ended up using love as like an excuse to fail. And it's like, well, I love this person. You know, I can't just leave them by the wayside. I love them. It's like I gave these mystical powers to love, which love does have that. But if you do not have a foundation of self-love and really just trust yourself first and your own inner voice, if you don't do that and have that solid foundation, nothing that you build on top of this, like, you know, sandcastle foundation is going to stand. It's all going to eventually crumble at the end of the day. And I built everything, like my whole life on this really just shaky foundation. I mean, it was really non-existent. And so it all crumbled. And now that I don't seek out anything external, you know, I'm trying to live from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in, because that's all we can do anyway, as far as I can tell. You know, we can either live to consume and just try to fill up these internal voids with anything and everything external. Even if it's just like, you know, not necessarily illegal or really toxic love affairs, it's still like this outside in, you know, consume life. Or I'm trying to do the opposite of that now and live from the inside out. And really, you have to have a foundation of self-love and trust with yourself, and a really good like rapport with yourself before you can live that way and be successful. And so that's what I'm trying to do now, is just get to know myself and continually like work on that foundation of self-love. And now that I don't have all of these like wildfires to put out, you know, I had like all of this trauma, like I said, and just codependency and all these toxic love affairs and addiction. And now that I don't have that, I don't have that permission. The only thing, you know, I'm either going to fail or succeed based on what I give myself. If I'm going to allow myself to succeed, or if I'm going to allow myself, you know, to fail. And, you know, it's strange now. It's like, I thought I was like just looking for permission to fail. But now that I don't have that, what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like I'm almost scared to succeed in a way. And I didn't understand like people that had a fear of success, like what they were talking about. I was like, wow, what a lucky problem to have. But it's true, you know, because everything is going to come down to fear at the end of the day. You know, it's either going to be fear or love. And I had dug like such, you know, like this Mariana Trench of pain and sorrow and cosmic gunk that I had to like claw my way out of. And now that I've kind of like, you know, done some digging and really done a lot of like inner work and soul work, and you know, dark nights of the soul, I think there's something to all that. And I've been doing that work, and I see like, man, I always felt like I had cosmic daddy issues, which I'm really proud of that phrase, cosmic daddy issues. It's like a phrase that I've coined. which anybody can use it, obviously. I'm sure I wasn't like literally the first, but I hadn't heard anybody else say it, but that's what it was. Like, I knew I had these cosmic daddy issues, like, before, years before my dad died on my birthday. And I was like, wow, that's like a sign. And my youngest daughter, my youngest and last daughter, the one that made the cameo yesterday, she was born on what would have been my dad's birthday. And it's just, it's amazing. Like, there's something to karma and what we inherit and in the DNA and like in our blood and the family we're born into. It's like there's a lot of gunk and lessons and trials and tribulations that we just have within our soul that we have got to overcome. And I was going back and like, working through like why I resented my father so much. And it was because we were a lot alike, and very, he was, I can see like why I kind of had these issues, like loving myself and using my voice and feeling confident with my voice. And it's definitely, a generational, probably multiple generations. It goes back really, really deep. And that's the beautiful thing about life. And this is like probably going to be the last thing I'm going to say, but we all have these maladaptive like states of being and these really kind of gunky and toxic issues like within ourselves, with navigating from a place of authenticity, navigating from a place of love, first self-love, and then love from there on out, and rising above the fear when we do so. It's really it's deep and it's painful, but it is so beautiful. That's what makes life so beautiful, is that on this planet, us being humans and like these stupid, beautiful, self-aware creatures, it's like we are aware, of our own mortality. But at the same time, we're like not smart enough to not like kind of kill ourselves in these very passive aggressive, or sometimes very direct, but at the very least passive aggressive ways. And it's like we cannot have this inclination, we cannot not have this inclination to kind of get in our own way. But as I work through that and I say, hey, I'm not damaged beyond repair, it's just part of life, is having these issues. Are we going to be live our lives based on our shortcomings, or are we going to live our lives rising up to like our greatest potential and be working towards going in the right direction, which is forward? Or are we going to keep like living in the past and just repeating and repeating the same patterns of like, oh, I can't go forward because I love this person, or because I have this addiction, or because, I have this painful thing that happened to my past. And I just refuse to, let fear and self-loathing and, dictate my life anymore. And it's so beautiful that is the point of life. It really is to, I would doubt there aren't probably a lot of planets that have just the right amount. I mean, this is like so beautiful that we can work out this cosmic gunk in this life, and really grow as people and just be this like better version of ourselves every second of every day, and it's okay. It's a learning process. And I used to kick myself like so hard every time like I would mess up or get stuck and recognize a pattern that I just really couldn't seem to get out of. I would just like beat up myself because I didn't have that foundation of self-love, and I didn't know that that's what was lacking. It all starts from, I've really found like a foundation of self-love and how you relate to yourself. And if you have that relationship with yourself where you trust yourself, you listen to yourself, you follow your heart, you follow your soul, you don't just follow like these fleeting anything other than that. That has to be the foundation. And if that is the foundation, you got it. But if you don't have that solid foundation, you have nothing. It's like this house of cards. And the more I love myself, like the more I see the system for what it is, which on a like a human, human connection, like this human, I don't know, like a meta level, it's really beautiful because we have this opportunity for growth. But in terms of like the state of affairs with the planet, it's like, damn, I love myself, and now like the sky is falling, it's scary. And I feel like I see these institutions for what they are basically just like hate machines that want to keep us in a state of self-loathing, and I've always had that like anti-authority kind of inclination, but I was like putty in the hands of all of these institutions that I claim to, rage against, because I don't know, if we don't, as long as we don't love ourselves, like they're going to capitalize on it. And that's why they have to keep us like hating ourselves. And so now it's like, I feel like I kind of see the matrix for what it is as I love myself. But now it's like, well, damn, I want to make money too. I want to have a life. I want to, be a published author and everything. So it's like finding a balance. And that's another reason that I found to censor myself. I was like, well, I don't want to piss off the wrong person or say this or that, or get called like, too kooky or too weird. And it's the same like fear, that I've had since I was like 4 years old. And so that's just what I wanted to share. Like, I know I feel like I sound like I've like stoned or something. I'm like all over the place. But I just wanted to say, like, the bottom line is I cannot let, fear dictate what I do. And I can't be afraid of like angering people, because if I'm coming from a place of self-love and I know I'm going in the right direction and with the focus on love and on self-improvement and betterment and just a place of gratitude as well, then I'm not going to go wrong. I just can't let fear hold me back. Fear of success or failure or other people. I just have to approach it with that solid foundation. And when I get like tripped up, and I start to like really get in my head or get in my feelings, I just kind of take a step back and work on making that foundation of self-love and that rapport with myself, like making that as strong as possible, and going from there. But that's just a little bit of food for thought for where my head's at tonight. So y'all have a good night.